information and present it to your council. It's up to them to make the right decision. To me, it's simple. If the town wants federal or state assistance, have sustainable rates in place. We have given you what 3 professionals together have told you are sustainable rates. If you don't approve those sustainable rates, you're being told by the governor's designee to the Delta Regional Authority, you will get no grants, you will get no loans. You have a grant application pending to repair breaches in your sewer system. We hope to get that grant. That is an LCDBG grant, and a workshop that was held several weeks ago, we were told specifically by the presenters that before they would present a grant agreement to you, if you were successful in getting the award, you would have to prove that your sewer rates were sustainable or you wouldn't get the grant.
Okay, Ms. Kim.
Thank you. Can we get a copy of that, please? Can I email?
You should have made it.
Okay, thank you. And also, does the new rate increase, does it increase everyone out of town once again? Because they were increased even more than 20%.
It does not. And if I may take this opportunity to tell you that the resolution, you will notice, part of it is exempting the sheriff's office in the detention facility from that out-of-town rate. And the reason for that is, with the increase being considered out of town, because of the large volume of water that they use and discharge as wastewater, they have considered building their own sewer plant, and therefore we would lose a substantial customer in that process. And if you recall, the reason we increased the rates on people that were out of town was to entice them to annex, to come into the city. Annexing the sheriff's property doesn't increase your taxes or tax base. So it's not the same reason in play to entice the sheriff by raising his sewer rates. And if we do that, losing him is actually wanting to do is let him fall back to the same rates as anybody in town, so he doesn't abandon us as a customer. And that is in the resolution.
Still have something on?
I don't know how to say what I'm thinking, but I don't understand why we're having so much difficulty with this. And I don't mean to imply any ignorance anywhere, but how many times do we need to hear the same thing? I mean, it was initially proposed to us that we adjust this, and the reasons were given. Professionals that are hired by this city. The next thing I hear is we want a committee put together. Well, we did. And the committee is now coming back to us with the very same thing. And here we are again talking about the same things. We get additional information from this email that, I mean, I don't think this email leaves a thing to anyone's imagination. You know, I can't think of one thing that has gone down in price in the last 20 years, 10 years. Can you? Can any of you tell me something that's gone down in price to purchase over the last 10 years?
Yes.
Okay, but it's coming back up eventually. So why should we, why do we, you know, we have all these projects we want, where we want to spend money to do this and spend money to do that, and we're constantly supplementing something that should carry its own weight, something everyone in this city uses. And they're telling us, set up a savings account or you're not going to qualify for assistance, which then puts us in a higher interest rate, which then ends up costing us more money to begin with. I don't understand it. I do not understand it. And I'm trying, but I just do not understand it.
Maybe I can give a little clarity. I've had numerous people, citizens, complain about their water bill. It's, you know, and I'm sorry, and I don't mean to be offensive, but you were on the council for how many years? Y'all did not do anything. So it's on us.
That's right.
For the whole 12 years, nothing was done. And
it was not brought to our attention,
I just think
Joe.
that it should,
And
we should look
if
at
you're
other
accusing
avenues.
me, I'm going to take resentment to that.
I'm not. I said I don't mean to be offensive. But, you know, we're told over and over again that we don't understand
You've
all the
inherited
issues.
a problem.
And, you know, I think we do understand.
So we have to fix it.
No, I think we should possibly look at other avenues to fix this problem. There's not one answer.
That we just did a 20% increase. It's not that we didn't do anything, we did do something. We passed and we approved a 20% increase on our citizens.
Right.
And we don't know how that's gonna come out yet. We haven't gotten any numbers or anything, we can't get any information about how that's really affecting everything. So I think we're haphazardly jumping into this thing again and we did something. Don't say we didn't do anything. We passed 20% increase on our citizens. And I just think that we should see how this plays out. Rob was here, he just said he didn't know how it was gonna affect it. So I don't know that we have all the information yet on how this 20% increase is gonna affect our sewer user fees. But we did do something. It's not that we didn't do anything.
City clerk.
I just want to say the last report y'all got at last month's council meeting states that it was up 5%. 5.74%
Oh, yeah, but that,
overall.
but to be fair, I asked about that, and that was not a monthly increase. That was an
That's the
increase over
year.
the whole year. Well,
Right.
we didn't pass this increase in January, did we?
No, but it
Okay.
still gives you an idea
So
of
why
where
don't
the
we
sewer user-
see what the increase is per month to give us an idea of what it's gonna be like for the rest of the year? Is it up 20%? It should be up at least 20% per month, don't you agree, Aaron?
Some months it was, I think me and Tim Mater kind of looked at some of those numbers, and some months it was, but I can tell you from the previous month, it only went up 4% more. Like it was 5.7, no, a point of 4%, because it was 5.7 the previous month, and we just passed was 5.74. So it's kind of slowly now starting to trend down, because people are starting to conserve more water now that their bills have gone up. So it's still not gonna cover what we need for depreciation, but that's why the committee come to the consensus that it needs to go up again.
Jeff, I think you were first.
No one arguing that, just as it's stated in the letter from Mr. Cryer, that what we're charging is gonna cover the operational day-to-day. But I also want to add that Ms. Leslie Durham from the Regional Delta Regional Authority, in the governor's office, she comes from the very city that Mr. Cryer cited, that what we're doing now isn't gonna work. You know, hence why, like Mr. Fogelman said, we put a committee together. Before that, we've had licensed professionals, paid professionals, didn't want to take their ideas. We put a committee together, didn't want to take, now we're not going to, now there's argument about what, the committee put together. If I would suggest by Wednesday, you could, Mr. Mayor, take the same projection, gallons, add the 20% and see what the difference is between what's projected with a 20% increase, as well as, I still call it 4A, rate, okay, that the committee agreed to, okay? And then show why that, it may cover the operational daily cost, but it does nothing or little to do with having to set aside that, not us, but the government requires for us to have in funds available to make the very loans that we just did, and to get the funding we need when we need it. We can't determine when a piece of equipment's going out.
Two things. The 20% increase was an increase, but it didn't get you to the point where you can call yourself sustainable. Ms. Durham is telling you, and Kerry Castile would say the same thing. If you're not sustainable with your user rates, you will not get grants, you will not get loans. I mentioned the LCDBG project that we've applied for. The workshop presenters the grant that you've applied for, they will send in, maybe this is what you were talking about a while ago, Glenn, is they're gonna send in an independent company that's going to determine on their own if your rates are sustainable. I dare say they're gonna find things much different than what we've already prepared, because they're gonna use the same figures and they're gonna use the same approach. So again, 20% was something, and I don't think anybody can question that, but it's far from sustainable, and if you're not sustainable, you're gonna begin to see problems emerge with getting grants, loans, and you may even ultimately have problems with state auditors.
Okay, and I agree with that, but the thing that gets me is how Ms. Durham in Baton Rouge has these figures of how our 20% is gonna affect our sustainability, and the council's sitting here, and we have no figures.
She has no figures, she didn't mention figures, she said.
So she probably doesn't know we passed a 20% increase, you know? I don't know,
all-
but we don't know those numbers.
All she's saying is sustainability. She's using a phrase to tell you that you have to have sustainable rates in order to be eligible. She didn't look at any figures. You're depending on us to tell you whether you're sustainable or not. We're telling you without any question, without any guesswork, you're not sustainable. And we're also telling you what you need to be in order to be sustainable. So no, she didn't get any figures that you haven't gotten. That's not the case.
And I guess I'll have to go back and look at the dictionary and see exactly what the word sustainable means, because to me, sustainable means I can pay my bills and have a little bit extra at the end of the day. And I think that's what this 20% I thought was gonna do. And we're gonna put that extra 20% towards the long-term rainy day fund, as we call it. But we haven't seen any numbers. We don't know how the 20% is even affected, or how it's affected us, or what the projections of our 20% is gonna be. So, you know, if it's 300,000 a year, is it more than 300,000 a year? Is that what we're gonna be taking in? And is that gonna be added to the cash flow that we already have? So if we got a cash flow of, say, $100,000, $200,000, so that's $500,000 a year. A couple of years, we got $1 million put away in a fund, and we haven't had to go up on the citizens. I don't know. You know, there's a lot of questions. I guess it's still not.
And just one last comment to that is the rates that we are proposing in this ordinance make you sustainable. Anything less, you're not sustainable.
Can you explain exactly what sustainable is? Does that meaning that you're covering your expenses?
That means that your revenues cover all expenses, and let's throw out the replacement or depreciation. That's part of it. That's part of it. You can't run and not have money to replace things that wear out over time, or you wind up like St. Joseph. I don't think Crowley wants to wind up the next St. Joseph.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, what is the percentage increase over this current rate? Because we did a 20% the last time. What is this one?
I don't have that figure, but I can tell you we're trying to obtain $2,400,000, and the projected increase that you did in March was going to increase it to 1.71, I believe. So you can do a quick divide 2.4 by 1.7, and that'll be the percentage.
Yeah, the rate. What would be the rate percentage?
Well, those numbers, let's talk about those numbers, because they haven't even been stated yet. Those numbers are flat rate, no matter what consumption is. This came out from the committee of $15. Not in front of me here.
Yes.
Yeah, $15 is going to be a flat rate regardless of consumption. As compared to the previous rate was a flat rate for the first 2,000 gallons. So what we decided to do, the issue was raised during the committee meeting that shouldn't everybody have to pay the same rate no matter what the consumption, just for the privilege of having a sanitary sewer system. And it turned out that that comment led us to a fairly even distribution of the increase across the board. And then we said, any consumption that's needed after that would be at a rate of $3.90 per thousand. Again, without regard to a minimum. So again, 15,000 or part thereof is what the new rate system is. Now, again, if you want to know what the increase is, it is the same thing as dividing 2.4 million by 1.7 million. That's the increase in revenue, so that's going to be the increase overall percentage in their monthly bill. Tom also attached to the information that he provided, the spreadsheet that had all the rate options that we looked at. And you can see in that spreadsheet, a fairly involved spreadsheet, but it shows you what increase each category is going to experience for each particular option. There's a lot to absorb here. To truly understand everything we looked at, we had those 2 meetings, but there was a lot of work behind the scenes. All we're asking you to do tonight is to introduce an ordinance. It's going to take the 30 days, study it, absorb it, and then when we have the public hearing, you have the option to do what you did last time, offer an alternative, or approve it as presented. I wouldn't expect you at all, I wouldn't be able to understand this if it was first given to me tonight. I wouldn't know enough about it to feel comfortable, but I would in a week or two.
And would it be possible for our city CPA to come up with a number of our projected cash flow this coming year with the 20% increase we have, plus the revenue that we're taking in already, and the expenditures that we're expecting, and come up with a cash flow number for us to go by? Is that gonna be $500,000 next year? Is it gonna be $700,000? Is it gonna be $100,000? Or are we gonna actually lose? Could we have that figure? Could CPA come up and tell us that? I mean, I know in previous years, it's here in the auditor's report what the cash flow, actual cash flow was, but I'm just wondering about now that we've got some history, a few months anyway, we should be able to get a good projection of what that cash flow is actually gonna be this coming year before we make a determination, because I think that's very, very important, what our cash flow is. I mean, if it's $500,000, I think that's pretty good. If we're losing money, then that's not good, but we need to know that. We need to know what that number is before we can make a determination on if we want to increase the sewer user fee on these citizens. I just think it's very, very important that we know that number, the cash flow number.
I would think the answer to that is yes, you can give anybody to look at it. I just don't think that anybody's gonna come up with a different result as far as sustainability.
I can tell you in the draft budget, y'all got an estimated dollar figure was given when you look at the utility fund. I mean, I estimated on what the history has shown in the first draft budget. I mean, I don't know what else, I mean, that a CPA may agree or disagree with my numbers, but I went on history of estimation, which is what we expect to receive. And I can tell you that I don't think that sewer user fee increased that much, because what we estimated the previous year, we're not even reaching that because it was down from the previous year.
Any other question?
Is there, so this goes to revenue and finance? Yeah, but if we vote yes, it goes to revenue and finance afterwards? Oh, full council.
It is
Okay.
on the agenda of revenue finance.
Yeah.
Okay. All in favor? Aye.
What are we voting on?
Bring this to full council.
To send it to the revenue and finance?
Yeah, full council. So we got the good 3. And Clinton is a no. So it'll pass. Any other legal items come before utility committee? I will recess.
Thank you, Mr. Reggie. At this time, I'll open recreation. And we'll have the director's report first.
Thank you. I hope everyone's property's in good shape or better than our neighbors to the west, and our prayers are with them. I'd like to thank the street department first of all before I get started. We had a tree that fell at the Rice Festival building. They were at the office at 7 o'clock yesterday morning, and they had to cut and move to the street by 7:45. They worked very hard to get it done, and I really do appreciate it. We had no damage to the Martin King Center from the hurricane to report. We did have a small piece of roof flashing that broke at the Rice Festival building, and we have contacted a roofer to come and take a look at that damage and also inspect the roof at the Rice Festival building. We did have an air conditioner fan motor at the Bronco concession stand that is not operating, that was operating before the storm, and also the air conditioning unit at the Miller Stadium concession stand is inoperable at this time. We do have an air conditioner repairman coming to look at those and give us an estimated cost to repair. All 3 ice machines that we own at the Recreation Department are up and running. And for those of y'all familiar with an ice machine, they're not cheap to replace or repair. So I'm very happy with that. Also, none of our rotten woodpecker infested light poles broke during the storm. I was very happy to see that. We had no fencing down, and in advance of the storm, if you noticed, if you've ridden by the property since, at the tennis courts, there were canopies over the bleacher sections. In advance of the storm, we had a vendor come and take those down and store those for safekeeping to get us through the storm. We also removed all the metal signs and the windscreens that could have potentially caused more damage, and we'll be replacing that as soon as we get a chance. We're very fortunate. I won't complain. All we have left is to clean up is some limbs and leaves that were blown across the property, and we hope to have that all back to normal and looking good by the end of the day tomorrow. A couple of things that I got 2 phone calls today from citizens offering to quote unquote spray our fields for mosquitoes. We have assured them that the city has a plan in place for mosquitoes. I do appreciate their offer to help us out, and it's not that I want to refuse it, but if they contact you guys, let them know it's a liability issue. For them to spray public property, if they want to do it, they want to donate their time, that's fine. I would just need to see their license to apply those chemicals and their insurance to do that, because certainly we don't want to have somebody coming behind them and have some sort of a reaction to do it, and the onus would be on us. I appreciate the offers to help, but like I said, if there's a licensed professional that's willing to donate their time and services, by all means, let's get it knocked out. Other than that, any questions for me? Thank you.
Mr. Nader.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On page 22 is where my report begins for Recreation Committee matters. I have an action item that will actually be turned back over to Peter. At the bottom of page 22 is an update on the artificial turf ball field lighting improvements project. Again, no action, but if you see there, I have a timetable. We have actually completed the contract execution process for the cooperative endeavor agreement between the city and sustainability partners. And with that, that triggers geosurfaces completing the final construction plans next week, submitting those to two SV sustainability partners and the city for review and approval. And then from there, geosurfaces and SP would enter into a construction contract in September 21st through the 25th, and during that week, we expect geosurfaces to be ready to mobilize and to begin construction the following week. And we're still hoping that we would see completion of the project in January. As Peter said before, his first tournament right now is scheduled for the end of February, so it gives us a little bit of cushion on time in case the contractor runs into any kind of problems to complete the project, such as a hurricane, whatever else can come along. Top of page 23, item 4 is, I included this in my report because we are helping the city do the grant administration. project is being handled by architect Josh Huffpower of Huffpower Studios. So that item tells you, again, to remind you that the project to renovate and repair the Rice Festival building is one consisting of new ceilings throughout, new lighting equipment throughout, stripping and polishing the terrazzo flooring, cleaning the brick inside and out, a new sound system, and an alternate proposal to enlarge the rec director's office. The budget for the project, you want to make note of some of these figures, intended to cover the construction contract is $250,191. That is grant money. So that's the grant amount budgeted for construction, $251,191. Bids were received on August 20th. Peter's going to report on that shortly. The project architect, Josh Huffpower, submitted the bid tab and recommendations to the city attorney for review and approval. And a decision has to be made on either awarding only the base bid in the amount of $249,000, which is about $1,100, $1,200 shy of the budget for construction, or awarding the base bid and an alternate proposal, and that's the enlargement of the rec director's office. The alternate proposal is a $5,900 cost, and so the total project, if it was base bid and alternate number one, would come to $254,900. One way to look at that is that the city would need to come up with another $4,709 in local funds. Peter has an alternate to that would make it such that the city wouldn't have to come up with any other funds at all. So with that, I will just turn it back to Peter for presentation of the bid tab and recommendation on the award.
Thank you, Tim. As you see in your packet that you have from Mr. Huffpower for the renovations, it is his recommendation that the council move swiftly on the bid provided by Habits Construction for two reasons. One, to lock in the price given, especially in the wake of Hurricane Laura, with material prices expected to go up. Two, it is his professional opinion that alternate one is a very, we take out the sound system within fund alternate one. This is all contingent on two things. First, that Mr. Tom's legal opinion is that if you see on the bid tab, there was a really low bid that came in. After the architect spoke to that contractor, he rescinded that bid because there were some aspects of the job that he had left out, and he had wished to rescind that bid. So we need legal opinion that him rescinding that bid and then the city awarding the next lowest bidder, Mr. Habits, is in his opinion legal. And then after that happens, it's also contingent that this will be accepted by the FP&C. So there are a couple of things that have to happen here, but there is a way that we can keep this project within the awarded grant amount and get some of the things that we wanted included with no cost out of pocket to the city. So I want to bring that to your attention. So, and what's going to happen is even though it's awarded as a base bid and then an alternate, there's going to be a change order after it's accepted, and then that's where the $5,000 is going to get moved from the allowance of the sound system upgrade to the alternate upgrade.
Any questions for Peter? Okay, thank you, Peter.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, are you finished?
Well, what we would ask the committee to do is to award the base bid and alternate proposal number one contingent upon endorsement of the city attorney and facility planning and control. And that award would be in the amount of $249,000 for the base bid and $5,900 for alternate proposal number one. And the contractor that you are awarding to is EL Habits.
Do we have a motion and a second? We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Good, Jim. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Anything else to come before Rec? Yes, Clint?
Are we still on track for January for the turfing of the fields?
I was in contact with Mr. Dawson, as recently as Monday, and yes, he's still saying that January 1st is still a good day, and I did told him that my gears have shifted, that I'm not as excited about when he starts, but I'm more worried about when he finishes.
Well, I have somebody that's kind of been in my ear about it because he has a tournament coming up and he's kind of worried about whether it'll be completed for then or not. He's
Yes.
actually not booking as many teams as, because he's really, really concerned about it. So you still think it's good for January?
It is still good for January, and
Is Miller gonna be first?
yes, Miller is our top priority, and then Heritage or Girls Park, depending on what generation you come from, is field 2. That'll give us our 2 high school baseball fields first.
Okay, I will close recreation, zoning and annexation, Mr. Fogel.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. A quorum is present for zoning and annexation. Tim, do you have anything for us? Well, there are no action items. Does anybody have any issue they desire to raise? If not, we will recess.
Thank you, sir. Public safety, Mr. Cord.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. We do not have a quorum present for the Public Safety Committee agenda meeting.
Yes, you do. You have 3.
Oh, so
This
you-
is committee, so I
Okay, so
count.
you get up. Very good. Well, wonderful, wonderful. I'd like to call to order the Public Safety Committee meeting, and we have 3 members in attendance, which is a quorum. The reports, Chief of Police Jim Broussard, he isn't here.
He was still stuck in the hospital. He just,
Captain Troy Abear will be presenting on behalf of Chief.
I have no numbers for you other than Ted.
You might.
I have no numbers for you other than the Ted numbers. The Ted was approximately 118 citations were issued in August. We currently moved it into the residential neighborhoods due to the hurricane. You have a lot of trash that's built up by the roads, and with the kids playing in the yards and running out to the street, it's a big hazard. So we've been trying to work a lot more traffic in the city, and we moved them on more residential street. The other numbers I do not have. He was supposed to get it, but he was stuck in the hospital, so he couldn't provide it. I assume he'll provide it at the next meeting.
And regarding the Cologic software, was here, but
Yeah, he had prepared a statement, but he had left. He was told there was no quorum, so he left. I know there's some issues they having with the software. I'm not sure it's all of them, so he can present that in the next meeting also.
okay.
If they're not straightened out.
Anyone have anything for Captain Abear? I'd like to know what those issues are, because I've been in touch with Sean Murphy and Matthew Teague with Cologic. And, you know, we met a couple weeks ago even with Chief, and when questioned, everything seemed to be fine. So I'm kind of curious as to why now there's still a problem. And I'm sure, and speaking with Sean, and they're kind of curious too as well. You know, as far as they know, they had a session, I think you said on the 15th, 8/15. And, you know, there were a couple of issues that still need to be worked out. He said, that's typical with anything. And of course, I know that's what the sheriff's office uses.
Right.
So I'm still kind of, you know, he's trying to figure out what.
I briefly had looked over his letter, and he also talked about the sheriff's office having some same issues, and some of it was like ticket reporting and stuff.
Well,
that they were
that's what I'm
supposed to
saying,
have.
and usually software, if more than one having the same thing, they can give you a universal correction on that. So, I mean, I have the same problem with the county software. But.
You're always gonna have the glitches that you gotta work.
Exactly.
Through. You have that, no doubt.
So,
And
I was just
don't
kinda
know-
curious.
Yeah, I don't know.
Last
where
I
exactly
heard,
it stands.
even from the chief, it was, things seemed to be okay. So,
And I'm not sure the extent of it. It might be just a little bit more time to get it up and running properly. Hopefully that's all it is.
right.
Anyone else? You have to be there. Oh, I'm sorry. Street phone.
Thank you. Do y'all have any new hires?
New
Do
one.
y'all have any new hires in the police department? Because
I think we have, currently 2 openings right now, possibly a third.
Because I think last.
We were looking at somebody, but, they ended up taking the job in Fayetteville PD. That was the one that I know that we were gonna hire, and I don't know if Fayetteville offered a better number, or, I know they moved to that area, so I'm sure they just want to be closer to home.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Interim Fire Chief Terry Romero, is not here, but I do have his report, which I'll have to read. The Crowley Fire Department responded to 54 calls for service for the month of August. Average response time was 33.13 minutes. I'm sorry, 3.13 minutes is correct. Hurricane Laura response included 29 calls during and after the storm. We continue to have a higher than normal volume of calls related to issues from the storm. We had 12 to 15 firefighters on duty during the storm. We had 8 firefighters on overtime during the 59 hours we had extra personnel on duty. We still do not have any answers on the SAFER grant to hire the 3 firefighter positions. They have started awarding the grants, and the City of New Orleans received their award on August 27th. When we called the help desk Monday, they stated they will probably have a bunch come out by next week. Basically, we still have no idea if we will get it or not at this point. Terry Romero, Fire Chief. And he also indicated that the 3 firefighter positions, he is concerned about his ability to hire them back because of the fact that they are seeking positions elsewhere, and the cost to have new firefighters without the training of the existing ones that were laid off will be very expensive to outfit. And he wanted me to add that to his report. And that's what we have from the Fire Chief. City Inspector Tony Duhon, again, is not here, and I will read his email to me. Good afternoon. Unfortunately, I will not be at committee meeting. We have been very busy with electrical permits due to Laura. Building permits, both housing and hopeful future developments, have also increased and have some interests. Violations are still not current, although we are pursuing to get current. Respectfully, Tony Duhon. Mr. Duhon also provided an email from Cody Monso, who is the Animal Control Officer. I read as follows. Last month, the 2 fans in the kennels were moved to the other side of the wall to allow more airflow for the dogs. On September, moved the sink from in front of the drain to the side to allow for easy cleaning of the drain. On September the 2nd, electrician Ed Guidry put outlets in the shelter for a washer and dryer and an air conditioner unit. The plumber is scheduled to come by next week to install the water lines for the washing machine. That concludes his report. City Attorney Tom Reagan was asked to provide an update regarding amendments to ordinances increasing all minimum fines for citations to $100. Mr. Reagan forwarded me an email. Just give me a second to find. And he addressed amendments to the ordinance for increasing fines, etc. Chairman Core, there has been very little I have been able to do with regard to the amendments of the ordinance. As I mentioned previously, the general ordinance does contain authority for the court to impose fines up to $200. In the meantime, Judge Strong can impose a minimum fine as requested by the council within her discretion. Sorry I cannot attend the meeting, but my present health condition does not allow exposure to so many people in a confined building space. Sign on time, Ms. Reed. I'm not sure if that answers what was requested. We want to have an ordinance to have set the minimum fines. So I guess we'll have to have some further discussion on that whenever Mr. Reagan is available. On the beer and liquor licenses, we have none. Under action items, recommending, and Alderman Martin presented this, recommending a resolution introducing an ordinance similar to the Acadia Parish Police Jury's recently passed nuisance ordinance. Said ordinance would pertain to tall grass, overgrown trees, overgrown bushes, and junked items such as junked motor vehicles, unused major electrical appliances, furniture, machinery, construction debris, waste paper, boxes, and crates. Violators would have 15 days to comply with an order to remove the nuisance, or the city would be authorized to enter calls to be removed the junk items and to dispose of it, all at the expense of the property owner. Recoupment of costs may be by civil lawsuit or through a tax lien. And again, Mr. Reagan provided an email to me, 4:05 this afternoon. Which reads, in order to facilitate the discussion and clarification on the changes and additions needed to be incorporated into the amendment, I'm providing you with the attached received from Glenn Howard. Also attached is Article 2, abandoned vehicles, major appliances, etc. of the Acadia Parish Police Jury's Code of Ordinances, which is available on Unicode but does not contain the amendment at this time. Article 2 is essentially the same as the City of Crowley's. It is my understanding Alderman Martin wishes to have an ordinance similar to the police jury ordinance. Therefore, I'm enclosing that information for the committee's consideration and recommendation. If the committee should make the recommendation to the full council, please provide me with full instructions as to what amendments they would like to be included, what language they would like to remain the same, or what additional language they believe would be necessary to accomplish the purposes envisioned by Alderman Martin's discussions. I am further looking into the question of how to incorporate this into the condemnation ordinance, perhaps. There are some options I will be considering. I do not have a recommendation at this time, as I have been very busy with other matters, obviously. I look forward to your response. Thomas K. Reagan, Attorney, City Attorney. Again, since Mr. Martin is not here at the moment, if the committee has any input they would like to share on this matter, welcome any discussion.
All of the repairs that were done at the animal shelter, was that the city incurred those costs, or was that incurred by Asayas? Did anybody know?
From Mr. Monso's report, it indicates that Ed Guidry was one of the contractors, and Rose Plumbing was the other. But as far as who engaged them, nothing here indicates that.
Maybe Sarah, do you know, or Aaron? Was that the Sayers that took on those expenses, or was it the City of Crowley? Thank you.
She said that was the City of Crowley that incurred those expenses. Any other discussion regarding that? I think we have Sergeant Nicholas Penn here to speak on the software with Logic.
Brad, you didn't move on this action item. If you want to.
Well, we can, but I think that Mr. Reagan indicated that he would like some additional information.
Do you want to table it for now, or?
Yes, without Mr. Martin here to the table and have further discussion on items that he would like to add, as requested by Mr. Reagan. So I think we don't have, obviously the only choice we have is to table the matter.
Okay.
So I move to table this at a later date. discuss when Mr. Martin's present. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And now we'll, so Ken's comments regarding the software issues.
All right, how y'all doing tonight? A while back, I came in and spoke to y'all about, Collogic and getting a newer software, called eForce. Since that committee, Collogic came in, made a promise, oh, we'll make it better, you know, we'll hold up to our end of the deal. However, they have not. With me, I have is all of the correspondences between myself and Collogic, tech support, developers, and I believe Chief Broussard has some for the CEO, Mr. Matt T. The program still doesn't work as it's supposed to. Few of the issues that we're having have been fixed, most of them have not been. We asked them to add a citation module to the system, that way we can keep track of citation. However, they said it'd take 2 weeks to implement. It's been about 4.5 weeks and it's still not implemented. We're having issues with the information that the dispatchers put into the computer-aided dispatch being pulled over into the reports management system for the officers to do their reports. They're having to re-enter the same information that the dispatchers have entered, which is repetitive and it shouldn't be done. Having issues with approving and forwarding reports. Duplicate files, person files are not merging, gives errors. Detectives are having issues editing and doing their investigative notes and reporting because of the issues with the programming. These emails are like the dozens of phone calls that I've made to them, most of being unanswered, until Chief Broussard calls Matt Teague, and then, oh, all of a sudden somebody calls me back. Because of all the issues, I spend probably 5 hours a day working on just issues with Collogic. Throughout the afternoon and night and weekends, I have officers calling me, hey, I can't log in, I can't approve a report, I can't do this, I can't do that. I have to get on the phone with Collogic. Hopefully I can get a hold to them in the middle of the night. I'm probably spending several hours a week working from home to try to rectify issues. We haven't even started reporting LIBORs or NIBORs reporting with the system. From what I understand, from other agencies I've spoken with, there's numerous issues with that side of the system also. It's not reporting like it's supposed to. There's fields that ain't in there that need to be in there. The state's having issues getting those reports. I've spoken with the Acadia Parish Sheriff's Office, Lafayette Parish Sheriff, and there's 2 counties in Texas that use the program, and they're all disgusted with it. Acadia Parish Sheriff's Office is actually looking at getting a different software to get away from Collogic because of the numerous issues they've had. Software is inefficient. You got officers spending more time in the office doing paperwork, trying to do paperwork, and can't get stuff done because of the problems we have. To me, it's a waste of time, and we really need to look into another software. I understand it costs money, and the software we looked at was $160,000 for the first year. I understand that's a big chunk of change, but like they say, you get what you pay for. This program doesn't work. like I said, we're not the only ones having the issue. So it's not we just want a new program problem. It's a software problem. It's a company problem. It's not us. Getting a new software that actually works, you'll see your officers go on the road with it. But fighting with subpar programs and equipment, as you can call it, it's only gonna cause more frustration, less morale. You're gonna lose more officers. We have enough of a problem retaining officers as it is. They'll go somewhere better, that has better stuff. We don't need that. You want a force that has experience, not a new set of officers every 2-3 years. You don't want that.
Have the other agencies that you're spoken to, are they looking at other software companies as well?
Acadia is, yes. Lafayette is. The two agencies in Texas, I don't.
Any idea which ones they're leading to?
Yeah, but they are way out of our price range. I can guarantee you that. From what I'm understanding, Mark 43 is $200,000 or $300,000 maybe. I'm not 100% sure, but if you want, I can check on that. I think the Acadia Parish Sheriff's Office is looking at Central Square Technologies. If I'm not mistaken, the first year is like 80,000, but every year after is around 40. So it's still a pretty good hit in the long run.
And I guess the main concern that all the other committee members have is to make sure that even if we would switch to another software company, what's the odds of not having similar problems? I guess that's all it is.
As I said the last time I came up here and spoke, I did my research. I looked
Quite obvious, E-Force is the choice that you're recommending comes down to.
I'm suggesting E-Force because of the fact that it's more affordable than the other ones that I've looked at, and easier to use, more time efficient, and it's gonna do what we need it to do.
Thank you. It would be 160 for the first year, and then how much for the?
There was 3 scenarios. First is 1 year, the first year, 160,000 to implement, and about 24 a year for service and maintenance, upgrades, whatever. Their second option, which back whenever this COVID started and, predicting budget cuts and revenue deficits and everything else, I spoke with them. I said, is there a financing option? Yeah, government capital out of Texas, you can finance it over 5 years. There's a 3.5% interest rate. However, we'll discount the software to where it's like y'all paying cash over 5 years. No extra cost, okay? Then they came back and offered another scenario of, okay, we'll come in, we'll implement it and give y'all 1 full year of use for $16,000, or a little bit more, between 16 and 17. At the end of 1 year, if it doesn't work for you, cut ties, no hard feelings, go back to using whatever program you want. If y'all decide to stay with us, then we go into full contract for $160,000, broken up over 5 years or outright, and then the $24,000 a year service afterwards. So that they're wanting to work with us. They want our business. They know their stuff works. I know it works. I've seen it work.
Sergeant Pim, what kind of training have they guaranteed? Because usually with the system, they give you so many hours of training. Will they train groups of officers, or is it a train-the-trainer type of situation?
It's actually both. they'll come in, they'll train us. And they also train me and probably Captain Mallet and Lieutenant Perry, to be that extra enforcement of training. You know, if somebody has questions or we get a new hire that needs training, we'll be able to teach it. Unlike the Logic where the training was done up here on a projector over the phone.
I'd like to follow up too, in that, will our present hardware that we have accept what E4 provides, and will it, is that base price that you're asking, have all the modules you will need?
Yes. Right now, our server is fairly new. It's a 2019 server. It's got more than enough memory, RAM, processing speed more than enough that we need for this software. There's two options to either put it on our server and host it in-house, or they can host it remotely on their servers, and it'd be web access, basically. Kind of like the Logic is, which, don't get me wrong, I like the web access because you don't need to do a remote access server into the Crowley Police Department system in order to access your files if you're on the road and you want to do a report on the road or update a complaint. All you do is go to the website, log in, and it's access there. So in the long run, it'll cut some costs on remote access to get into the server and do, whenever we start in the future, maybe implementing in-car laptops, stuff like that.
And just from the cost aspect, if I get you right, $160,000 over 5 years, but each one of those years, are they thereafter 24,000, or is it?
After the
Only
5
after.
years,
Okay.
after the 5 years, then your 24,000 is gonna come into play. So in the long run, we're actually saving a little bit also over a matter of 5 years. That's what they've explained to me, and then, like I said, the 16,000 for the first year of use, if we wanted to go that option, and then year 2 go 160,000. That they've put it on paper for me already, through the contract. I've actually given it to Mayor Monso, and from what I understand, gave it to Tom Reagan, and haven't heard anything back since. And that's been probably 3 months now, 3 months.
And I speak personally, one of the, I'm not against. What I am against is hopping. I know this is your third, you already have 2. And it does sound like you've done your homework. And I just want to make sure that this isn't going to be another thing that, 2 years down the line, well, somebody else, another sergeant's going to come up and say, look, I know we should have gotten this other one. And because it does sound like Collage was very good, but it sounded like there was a lack in training from the use thereof from the get-go. And it was never followed through.
The issues we've been having for the most part with this software is programming errors on their end. And I have one of the officers that did a report the other day, a felony report, lost the narrative 3 times, had to retype it 3 times. After the 3rd time, he finally said, screw it, I'm saving a damn copy of it in case it loses it again so I can copy and paste it back in there. However, we shouldn't have to do that. And today they told me issues of some other complaints that are losing information in them. Call Collage, oh, I don't know what happened. But they'll go into their system and somehow miraculously it comes back temporarily. And then it goes away again. And I understand your concern about hopping programs. Unfortunately, I have no control over what's been done in the past.
No, I get it.
Because I've only been in the IT and evidence for the last year. So, and believe me, I've put in countless hours to find something that will work for us.
That definitely seems that way. Thank you.
Any other questions? No?
Thank you, Nick, appreciate that. Any other legal matters, to come before the committee? Before the committee recesses.
Thank you, Mr. Core. Public buildings, that'll fall to you, Ms. Stringfellow.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. The Public Buildings Committee will convene, and we do have a quorum. The purpose of the meeting is to consider a report from administration relative to real estate owned by the city that is not essential and that can be sold to generate additional revenue. Sorry, I was handed, I want to make sure. Okay, I was handed a letter from Mayor Monso. Mr. Chairman and members of the Public Buildings Committee, I regret I'm unable to attend your committee meeting in person to provide this report as I'm still recovering from COVID-19. Alderman Core asked for a report from the administration relative to real estate owned by the city that is not essential and that can be sold to generate additional revenue. One of the properties that is city-owned and currently not in use is located at the corner of Avenue C and West First Street. It is currently known as the old Cajun Bag Warehouse. As you were made aware in a previous meeting, an appraisal was done on the subject property due to a potential purchaser's interest. Once the gentleman found out about the appraised value and that the city is bound by law to sell property at a price no lower than the appraised value, he did not return any of my attempts to reach him. At this point, I believe there are two options: either try to sell the property or keep it and possibly work out a negotiation for industrial inducement to promote businesses and jobs and possible grants for creating jobs.
And that was all the property that was mentioned.
Yes, that was the only property.
So, I guess I'm going to assume that all other properties are essential to the city's needs and services.
Yes, and it would have been wonderful if I would have had this beforehand to read instead of on the fly, but, it can't be helped. Okay, we'll continue that, discussion, I'm sure. And the Criminal Justice Center, there was, we were to get a update on the mayor, from the mayor, on the police station. I don't know if we have a piece of paper? No, ma'am. And also.
Those were requests were from, Alderman Woolridge.
Oh, okay. And an update on the fire station. So we don't have that either, okay. And we also requested an update from the mayor regarding the Enterprise Center. So, no response on that. And the animal shelter, Alderman Core did go over an update regarding the animal shelter. I think Tony Duran stated that it needed repairs with the animal shelter, and you had read that earlier, so. Okay. There's no, there were no action items. Are there anything else that needs to come before the Public Buildings Committee? All right, the committee recess.
Thank you, ma'am, and you can go right into insurance and personnel.
Okay. The Insurance and Personnel Committee will convene, and we have a quorum. Luis Romero did give me a statement. And he's the chairman of the Municipal Fire and Police Civil Service Board. And he said that they approved the test scores for the fire chief. He says, I advised the mayor today. He said he will start interviews. We postponed the public hearing till a later date. we finish with the investigation on Robert Berg, and the mayor will get served a copy of the finding of fact sometime this week. So that's his report, and there are no action items on the Insurance and Personnel Committee. Are there any other legal items to go before the committee? Committee recesses.
Thank you. Community and Economic Development, Mr. Reggie.
Thank you again. We do have a quorum. Under action items, I have none, and under non-action items, I also have none. Any other legal items to come before Community and Economic Development Committee? We will recess.
Thank you. Revenue and Finance, Mr. Clavell.
Thank you, Mr. Primo. Revenue and Finance Committee convenes. The purpose of this meeting is to consider a report from the administration concerning its efforts to increase revenue. I have no report again. I was really not certain as to, thank you. Here's a letter from Mayor Monso. Mr. Chairman and members of the Revenue and Finance Committee, I regret I'm unable to attend your committee meeting in person to provide this report, and I'm still recovering from COVID-19. Alderman Core, for the report on efforts being made by the administration to increase revenue. Since March, COVID has affected the entire world, including our fine town of Crowley. Coronavirus has caused effects and required cuts from many municipalities. And on top of the health crisis, our economy has suffered from the downturn of the oil field, which of course affects our tax base. The administration is very concerned about building additional revenues for our city. We are faced with some uncertainties such as COVID-19, now Hurricane Laura. However, together as a city, we move forward and continue to be resilient. I think that we are all going to stand strong in support of our city and her citizens. We are utilizing historical data and observing its economy that surrounds us to make sound financial decisions. We are always open to any information in support of a revenue increase. Thank you, Mayor Tim Monso.
Chair.
Yes.
I just want to add, my request was not by any means to increase taxes or anything like that. It was driven to consider the sale of non-essential properties that the city owns during this economic time. And also, what is the administration doing to further economic development, such as our downtown district, our new frontage road, going out, attracting hotels and so forth. That's kind of what I was looking for as far as what efforts is the city doing to attract revenue sources beyond fees and taxes.
Well, I will answer that real quickly. I think just doing these turf in the fields, one huge avenue, and actuality, it should be Reggie's committee since he's economic development. But I think just the standpoint that we're sitting on right now regarding the possibilities of the turf in the fields, from what Chair Peter Kirsch said, with all the, unfortunately for them, but fortunately for us, our tournament now have gone from 35 to possibly 70 teams on average, to the point where we have a problem, but it's a good problem. So I think in all that's something that's positive in nature.
Well, I just was agreeing with, that's what I was gonna say, and I also think it'll help spin off more business for our other businesses and hopefully get us new businesses.
And that's what I want to see the administration doing, is to go out and cultivate, like everyone say, we need a hotel, we need a new motel. That's, make some efforts there.
Well, I think too, to answer your question, I agree, I'm full force, but I do know, there was a report, I think, in the last meeting, or in so many meetings last month, I should say, new development off of Oddfellows Road, residential development. But let's keep in mind too, when people or entities want to develop, or come into town, certain, they make the calls as to when they want the public to know in many ways. You know, if let's just say, for instance, ABC company comes into town and they're looking, they're gonna make the call to when they're gonna let us know to put it out in the public. It's not saying things aren't being done, it's just, they make it, in fact, they demand that there's a non-disclosure of some of these information, you know. You sit in a meeting, you're signing a paper, non-disclosure, so you can't say anything to the public. So, although I don't think that, for a second, things aren't happening, I think things are happening. In fact, I said earlier that Crowley's in a position right now to really goose forward. I really do.
And I agree with that, and I deal with that every day. We have a big deal working on right now for the City of Crowley that's can't be disclosed. But again, you know, our real estate company is going out and seeking opportunities to let people know what's coming, what's here in Crowley about our project. And I would just like our city, our mayor, certainly is not available now, but to have someone promote our city, go out there and to knock on doors, make phone calls to hotels to let them know, instead of just waiting for someone to call. I like to be more proactive, and I guess that's what I'm, just try to do everything we can to promote economic development. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Reggie.
I think that would probably come with Ms. Charlotte's old job in tourism, that's not here now. So.
And I think you've already addressed that issue as well with the clerk and administration. Any other? Okay. Under action items, that has already been taken care of in utility. So that will no longer be. Any other items coming for a committee? Since that is a no, revenue finance recess. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Miss Jones, can you send me a copy of all the letters from the mayor that were sent to the council, that were all read out loud?
I ain't gonna run.
Yeah.